Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is in regard to the racism at a workplace. Since the protesting and looting had transpired over the weeks, I've noticed so many companies and corporations showing an outcry of support and solidarity with Black Americans and Black Lives Matter. But what I find so strange is the fact that these same companies that stand by Black Lives Matter are the same companies that allegedly stand by their racist employees. With this entire video, I will share my experience and other Black American stories of racism at their workplace as well. Some of these companies are very well known within our nation and all over the world. Starting with my stories. I've had several racist experiences at a workplace, such as Pooch Hotel, American Medical Technologies, Target, GoPuff, and Pet Chicago. My first job was when I was 20. It was at Target on Elston in Chicago. I remember when I started working there, it was in October of 2012 to January 2013. The supervisor was very anal and micromanaged everything when it came to the Black employees. At the end of the winter season, they had to choose which employees that they wanted to make permanent, which at the end, they chose to make the Black employees. They let those employees go, including me. But the employees that they made permanent were white and Hispanic. And I remember the older Black employees that were there for just retirement will warn us and tell us that, they don't like Black people. They just keeping us for a temporary. And I didn't like that they were telling me that, but I should have known that was a sign right there. But yeah, they let us go and they made the white and Hispanic employees permanent. And I was told by a Hispanic employee that they kept the white and Hispanic employees because they felt like they were more hardworking. Next, at Pooch Hotel, I was there from June 2013 to July 2017. I was their first token Black girl to work there. But before I realized that I had actually fell in love with the company and staff, I felt like they were my family. From 2013 to 2014 and 2015, I grew to love the staff, but I did have an incident where I was cool with assistant manager. He was very nice, but sometimes he always slipped up the N-word because he was used to rapping songs, and I would have to tell him that's not cool, and he was like, okay, but it always came up when he would sing a song, he would say the N-word, it would slip up. Furthermore, around 2014 and 2015, I got accepted to Point Park University in Pittsburgh and decided to leave Pooch Hotel, which I came back a year later and got my job back. When I came back to Pooch, I was so surprised that they had hired 3 more Black girls. But later on in the year, all 3 of those girls quit, and it was just me. After I received my BA at Governor States in media, my goal was to be promoted into the marketing department at Pooch. So I was very vocal to the general manager that I thought I was like family, like we were good friends there. And when I vouched this to him, he was like, okay. But I noticed that he was promoting other staff to higher positions, or he was increasing their pay wage. Remind you, I'm the only Black girl there, and there he's promoting the white and Hispanic and Asian employees and increasing their pay wage as well. So I decided the next day, which was in July, if my general manager doesn't really have an actual discussion with me, a meeting, or having paperwork in regards to me increasing my pay wage or me being promoted to a position, I was going to leave. And I found out one of the girls majority of the girls there that worked there were being promoted to positions, and they got an increase in their pay wage. One girl was promoted into, I think, the marketing department, but she only had a journalist degree, and she came there after me. So when I found all of this information out, I was so furious. I went to the general manager and I demanded, if I don't get this certain pay wage, I will leave. And he's like, you know what, we'll just see. And when he said we'll just see is a no for me. Just like if you say maybe is a yes, maybe is a no for me. So I was very upset because I sacrificed 4 years at this company, and I really loved the staff. But for them to treat me in that way, I could not tolerate it, and I can't tolerate bullshit. Next job after that was Pet Chicago. And the reason why I liked Pet Chicago, because it's just dog walking. It was a very easy job. It was easy money. My goal was to just be in a media department, and I just wanted to, start off with the company and work my way up to the top, just to show like how dedicated and loyal I am to a company, and just to learn everything within the company. So like, if I wanted to market a brand to a certain audience, I already know the ins and out of the company, the business. So I was hired at Pet Chicago. I believe it was in the it had to be in 2018, I think, for almost a year. And I worked in Gold Coast. I worked in Lakeview, downtown Chicago. That was like in Old Town. Those were like the areas I would walk dogs. And I would walk dogs from 6 a.m. to like 5 or 6 p.m. And this would be like 6 to 7 days a week. So I never had any free time for myself. So I worked at Pet Chicago. And working in these areas, it just turns me off to how society, the upper class, acts over little things. If you didn't clean their dog's paws, or if you didn't give their dogs 2 bowls of water, 3 bowls of water, if you didn't clean their dolls, I just noticed like how anal they were when it came to their dogs. And I just thought like, wow, they live in this big condo, this big loft, and they want us to watch their dog and clean their dog and feed their dog and babysit their dog. And I'm like, why you guys have a dog if you're not around your dog? It just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, maybe your dog is just for show. So, okay, this one incident, I realized it was like a domino effect after this happened. So in the fall of, I think it was 2018. It had to be the summer of it got to be in 2018. I know that. I just know it was cold and I had a jacket, so it had to be in spring. So I was walking in Gold Coast, and I was working for this socialite family. There's some well-known socialites investors. And I was walking there, 2 German Shepherds. And remind you, I've been working with dogs for 5-6 years now. So I know how to work with big dogs and small dogs and different breeds. So this one dog like bit my inner thigh. But the reason why this dog bit my inner thigh is because it was a baby German Shepherd walking past us. And I held the big German Shepherd that was like 8 or 9 years old, and I held the other German Shepherd that was on my right-hand side. She was about 1 year old. So when I held them both, the 1-year-old was like snapping at her big sister because she was just so excited to see another dog. Poppy, I think, no, Posey was used to biting her sister just to taunt her sister. And when her big sister named Poppy was so ticked off, her Poppy went to go snap at her, but instead she snapped my inner thigh. So after that happened, I was like, oh, hell no. I like walked over to their house, and I was in so much pain because I've never been bit by a dog, but I've worked with dogs for like 4 to 5 years. And I went back, I called my boss, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And she's like, you think you can do your other walks? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do my other walks. It's like I didn't have any choice because I needed the money. So when I went to the other dog walker's house, the owner was like, are you okay? And I was like, I was bit. And she's like, yo, you need to go get this check. You need to go get a shot. And I was like, no, it's fine. I didn't have any health insurance because my job didn't provide that, and they weren't paying me enough for it. And so I was like, I gave it a week, and I still was like running. And when I was running, I was sweating. And because I was sweating, it wasn't affecting the bite mark. So I went to Rush Hospital. I got the shot, and they said, oh, we have to report this. And I was like, I don't want to report it. And he's like, we have to. So I was like, okay. I told him what happened. I gave the person's address. And then when I told my boss, like when my boss had called me back, she's like, I'll pay you back with a shot of tequila. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I don't have any health insurance, and I have to pay for this. Are you serious? And after that conversation, I get a swarm of texts and emails from my staff members and my boss saying like, why would I do that? Like, why would I report him? How dare you? Like, we helped you out. And I was like, you didn't help me out with anything. But I was like, we could have just, prevent all of this if they just would have paid for my shot. So they had to quarantine the dog, which I did feel bad because I really love the dog. And when I was talking to one of the staff members, I found out through the staff members that my boss was even paying her black employees. She was actually taking money from us, and she was giving it to the two white staff members, to Taylor and to this Russian guy. I think his name was Jacob. But all the money that me and the other black employees were working our asses off 7 days a week, she was giving all that money to herself and to her white employees. And then while I was talking to the black employee, I overheard the owners that the dog that bit me was snapping off. And they were calling me, we had that girl in our house, that girl disrespected us, she had water in our house, and she had the nerve to report us that girl. And every black person knows when you're called that person or that girl or that boy, we already know what's the undertone of that. So after that, I left, I quit, and I got another dog walking job. And at that dog walking job, my boss saw me, and she was calling me out my name. She was cursing me. And this is when I was training for another dog walking company. And she's like, you ruined my life. And I was like, how can I ruin your life when I'm the one that was in pain? This white lady was acting like a Karen, basically. Either way, let's go to the next company. And the next company I worked for was GoPuff. I'm trying to minimize this as much as I can because there's so many other stories I have to tell. But it possibly is going to be a part 2. But with GoPuff, I was there from October 2018 to May 2019. And within that time I was working, that was I experienced a lot of racism and xenophobia at this company, and sexism. It got to the point where I was crying every day, and I had to just suck it up and just have my head down and dealt with the bullshit at this company. I first worked at the Chicago location, the Lincoln Park location, for 2 or 3 weeks, and then later I was transferred to the Evanston location at GoPuff. While there, I experienced the men talking about my vagina, the man comparing my hair, my 4B, 4A hair to the Middle Eastern's man pubic hair in the bathroom, because the men would never, when they would pray, they would clean themselves. But yeah, they would literally compare my hair to pubic hair. Again, they talked about my vagina. They talked about how loud and ghetto I was, and I was never loud and ghetto. I'm really just to myself. If I had a problem that I want to discuss to the general manager, he would say, what would you want me to do? These are men. This is part of their culture. And these men were from Jordan, Iraq, Turkey, Iran, India. And the women were from Syria. The women from Syria would use the N-word heavily, and when I would check them about it, they were like, oh, it's nothing. And that made me very irritable with GoPuff. I had so many problems at GoPuff, hearing people saying the N-word and my hair being compared or my body being talked about in disgusting ways in front of these men. And when I did report it to the general manager named Raza, he just said, what do you want me to do? This is part of their culture. You just have to accept it. And he was like, I don't want to get fired. And he's like, I know if you were reported to HR, you would get fired. There was another incident that happened at GoPuff. One of the guys received a text message from one of the customers, and the customer was basically flirting with the driver, asking him to come back to his place. And then this Russian dude was like, yo, you should do it. He said, just screenshot her address and just go back to her place after you clock out. And to me, I felt like that was unethical, and that doesn't paint a good picture of GoPuff. That's not what GoPuff stands for. And all the men was amping him up to do it. So I reported to my GM, and I told him what happened. And once again, he said, what do you want me to do? It's part of this culture. That's how men talk. And I do have a recording of this discussion as well. So when this was all happening, it was just disgusting to me just to see how men act, and especially these men from different countries. And it got into the point where I just couldn't talk to any of the men there. And I wanted to report to the Department of Labor, and I decided to get a lawyer. And when I did that, I was asking all the people that I thought was going to have my back to vouch for me. And when I finally got the lawyer, no one vouched for me. Even when I had evidence, no one wanted to vouch for me. Even this girl I was cool with, I think she was Arabic as well. And I would show the screenshot in this. And instead of having my back, she would just blame me and say, what do you expect? Like, you're supposed to be leaving. Why do you want to start this drama? And I was like, it's not me starting the drama. It's the men that's creating this drama. I want to shed light on other Black folks' experiences regarding racism at a workplace. We can start with one story. I'm not going to say her name. It starts off with, I worked at the Brown Elephant in Lakeview for about 3.5 years and experienced racism and harassment multiple times, from microaggression to nonverbal sexual harassment. One time in particular, one supervisor named Melissa was around to an associate, talking about me, saying I was African, so I smelled bad and my style was weird, and that the only reason that they didn't fire me was because they needed a token Black girl. I am so sorry that they said that. Like, I can totally relate to being a token Black girl. I'm going to continue. She stated that they ended up firing that supervisor, but she would come in and shop constantly, and they did absolutely nothing to make me comfortable with that. And I can totally relate that as well. And I'm so sorry that you experienced that. I totally understand where you're coming from when it comes to being a token Black girl and your coworkers or staff not making you feel comfortable in situations like that. So next we have another story in regards to Sam's Club. This lady said, I used to work at Sam's Club with a very good friend of mine who was a Black woman as well. It was a slow day and she came over to my section on her break. We were having a conversation on our hair. I asked her a question about my hair and she was looking at it. And one of the managers was walking by and said we looked like a couple of monkeys and made monkey noises. We just stood there in awe and didn't even know what to say. Another story she said was, another time I was working at Hollister in the back office. One of the managers had a list of type of races they needed to hire. The list read Black, white, Asian, and a few whatevers. She proceeded to say the other job she had was a school photographer. The job had requirements that were needed to meet to make sure the picture were as flawless as possible, such as making sure the hair was neat or the child's collar were in place, etc. If a photo you took meets the requirements, you can enter the photo in a company monthly contest to win a gift card. One of the assistant managers told me that pictures that usually win are little Black boys under 8. I have a few more stories regarding, from this lady. This story was very sad to me because I can definitely relate to this. This is in regards to Marriott. She said, I started working in February of 2013. I was 19 years old. It was Valentine's Day weekend. My first uniform was gray slacks with a baby pink bottom-up blouse and a darker pink sequin sweater with the baby pink shirt sleeves folded over that cuff of the sweater. I was hired in by a nice, kind man, and the first year and a half was a breeze. I felt like my coworkers were family, and I loved my job. And then the hostile takeover began. General manager, she came in, turning the entire staff over. Her transgressions towards me are as follows. She refused to buy me a new uniform for a multi-month period, but newer employees got a new uniform, although their uniforms were up to date than mine. She hired a bunch of folks, not one person of color in the year and a half I worked under her. She got rid of all the Black folks except for myself and one housekeeper. I've definitely seen that multiple times. She also stated, I don't know what the phenomena is, but people of color tend to pay for hotel rooms and cash, and although folks of color weren't the only folks paying in cash, those were the only accounts that she would post fake cash refunds to replace in the drawer for what she was given the front desk girl during the morning shift to pay her bills with. Whenever a staff of color used the employee discount, something would happen where either they would claim the building, get paid, or they would claim something happened to the room. Slowly but surely, she became more oppressive, wouldn't give me days that I traditionally got off, threatened to fire me if I didn't work Sundays. Yeah, I've gotten threatened that multiple times, especially at GoPuff. Also, she proceeded to say, white female coworker promoted to assistant manager. We became close, but only at work, never outside of work. She would talk to me out of my shift, and I would talk to her into hers. So, like, the last 10 minutes of my shift, we would talk first. Once the turnover happened, she would put on shift with me, and she began messaging me on Facebook. Somehow she found me on there. I later found out 9 months after this started that she was playing middleman between myself and our general manager. And she would basically message me that people were bullying her or messing with her. And I would say things to console her, not realizing that was happening because this was my first job and I was very naive. So basically, she baited me. And in the grand finale, she erased all of her prompting messages, left all of my responses, printed them out, and gave them to our GM. What the fuck? I'm sorry, I just read this right now. What the fuck? Okay, let's just proceed. This is pissing me off. Throughout the 9-month period that she was assistant general manager and that I had that general manager, I found out that all the nasty things that were being said to me about my coworkers was being portrayed to my coworkers as me having said it. So basically, I couldn't even tell you if racism is why I was getting treated like shit or if it was two racist bitches setting me up. Okay, the second job she worked as logistics storefront. So basically, they sold shipping and stuff. It was a small business, and initially, I felt I could thrive. Owner was a old white passing man. Underneath him was a white woman, and underneath her was a younger white male. We were made to do all the bitches' work. This is literally what she's saying. While the three of them micromanaged the fuck out of us, the owner invaded my space on several occasions, but tried to make it seem as though he was just watching over my shoulder to make sure I was doing things correctly. It was so bad to the point where I could feel his thigh on my ass, and I'm like, if I could feel your thigh, I know you can feel my ass. He would just stand inappropriately close, and however, I could even feel his breath. He would create these opportunities for moving up, which really weren't opportunities, but anyway. So, like, if you want the sales competition, he would pay you more, but then cut your hours, which I guess did give you the opportunity to go and find another job or whatever. He will always cheat the newer staff, all of whom was black when it came to these. And his favorite, the older white boy, will always win. I remember once where the owner patted a black male coworker on the head and said, "Good boy." We all know when you call a black man a boy, we already know what the history behind that. Anyway, proceeding. Long story short, that job ended with me cussing the owner out and quitting. Third and fourth jobs I had for about 3 months, I worked them concurrently. So I will work at one place for 6 hours of the day, and then I will go work at the other until midnight. One place was Chick-fil-A, and the other was drive-in. Chick-fil-A was oppressive towards anybody that was not in their religious circle. It was owned by a church. The drive-in was owned by 2 white gay men, and it was just oppressive. I already told you how I feel about white gays, especially on the north side of Chicago. We already know how they are. Anyway, proceeding. A customer actually came up to me and told me that the owner called me the N-word. The owner's sister had a baby by a black man but was a crackhead, and he routinely called the boy's father a basic nigger. Now, if you're wondering why we didn't fight him, something unique about this job, this was the last 3 months I was spending in the town where I went to college, and I just so happened to land a fun job with literally all of the friends that I've accumulated my first and second year of college. So we ignored him in the name of being able to hang out together at work. It was the funnest job I ever had, except for the owners. That job ended with myself and other black employees confronting the owner about his use of the N-word and me quitting and moving out of my apartment. So a month before my lease was up, because I didn't feel like coming up with the rent, the owner that did all of the N-word talking would go to his car almost every hour, and he would do whatever kind of drugs he had and then come back and drink a Red Bull. So, I know this is a very long video, guys, but I wanted everybody that shared their story with me for their voices to be heard. It was, I asked this girl who experienced, who had the traumatizing experience at the Black Elephant. I asked her, like, how does this affect you mentally? And she was like, mentally, it was pretty traumatizing because it literally, like, no one cared to listen or was even on my side. I went to work every day feeling completely ignored and hated. And I worked there for almost 4 years, so I'm sure you can imagine what kind of abuse long-term would have on a human mind. I still don't even feel comfortable around people, especially non-black people. And this is why I do videos on things like this, on topics like this. I can definitely relate to the girls that provide their stories to me, and definitely to the part 2 of this video, which is regarding celebrities. We deal with shit like this on a daily, and no one hears our voices, especially Black women. We're so conditioned to bite our tongue and just assimilate and just, work twice as hard, when sometimes it doesn't even get us nowhere. So when I see companies and corporations posting up Black Lives Matter, and we stand with Black Lives Matter, and we're for Black people, and we don't tolerate racism, actually you do tolerate racism. You tolerate when your employees that come to you telling you that they experience racism, and you fire them the next day, or you don't do anything about it. And we're not taking that shit anymore. So if your coworker is experiencing racism, don't be like the other people that would just like condone it or ignore it. Do something about it, because no one can tolerate that for days. I remember like with GoPuff really traumatized me to the point I was crying every single day, and I had basically put my head down because I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't do it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. I do apologize for having this video very long. I just want everybody to share their stories. Once again, share, subscribe, comment, like this video. If you experience racism at a workplace or sexism, definitely comment below. There will be a part 2, a celebrity edition. Just look out for it. Bye, guys.